That was inspiring to me. That lifted me up. And so when you're looking at your socials, when you're looking at your social media feeds, ask yourself that, is this empowering me? Is this lifting me up? Or is it sending me into the spiral of anger, fear, unhappiness, frustration, or, is it living in my brain? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Flow Over Fear podcast, where it is our mission to help you to rise above fear and realize your ultimate potential in leadership and life. I'm your host, Adam Hill, and it is my goal to share with you the human side of high performance. My guests share their experience with fear, anxiety, struggle, challenge, and, most importantly, despite all of it, how they rose above it to achieve incredible results. So, if you're ready to rise up, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Flow Over Fear and 3 Things. And today I want to share 3 ways in which you can start to practice mental minimalism. Now, what is mental minimalism? Well, as you may know as an anxiety superhero, that when we experience anxiety, it's just a bunch of different stuff that just comes into our brains and overwhelms us and spins around and just starts causing mayhem in our minds. And one of the ways in which we can start to alleviate that anxiety and start to practice more focus and therefore more flow in our lives is to remove a lot of the items that are just causing that mayhem to happen. And this is a practice I like to call mental minimalism, because we ultimately, while we want to remove a lot of this stuff that's causing us so much havoc and so much chaos in our minds, ultimately what we want to do first is we want to control what we're putting into it. And, a lot of times what we put into it is not healthy, but we put that stuff in there under this guise, under this veil of wanting to rest or relax or recover or things like that. We'll put in, we'll do things like we will drink to take the edge off. But ultimately what that does is it starts to deplete our energy. It takes away from our health, that kind of thing. And the same happens when we put information in, and the type of information that we put into our brains, into our minds. So I want to share 3 ways in which you can start to practice mental minimalism and start to enjoy the benefits of relieving yourself from some of that anxiety, some of that chaos, and start to achieve greater flow in your life. And this all comes down to what we focus on and where we focus our energy. The first thing that you want to do is to avoid the news. And this isn't some conspiracy-esque theory kind of thing. I'm not on the side of Fox News or MSNBC or anything like that. I avoid all of it. And you may look at this as something like, well, Adam's not being informed. How is he going to know what's happening in the world? Trust me, when something important happens, I find out about it. I mean, I talk to people. People know things. I hear about the things that happen in our world. And if it's important enough, it will get to me. That's the nature of our world right now. We are in an on-demand world, meaning we don't just have to tune in to Walter Cronkite at 8:00 in the evening, this one news program that we have on only 3 channels. We have infinite stations. We have infinite websites we can go to find information or news, and all of it is there, and all of it is sensationalized. All of it is there to drag you in, to make you click on the button, to instigate feelings that will happen within you. And that's problematic, because if instead of being this unbiased source for news, it's trying to invoke feelings or passions or polarizing views towards everybody, it's causing more chaos in our minds. The more we think about Congressman so-and-so who's doing, this evil act or whatever it might be, the more that's just weighing on everything else that needs to be important to us. And so personally, I avoid the news, and that might be seen as something that's insensitive or or something like that. But the way I look at the news, unfortunately, it's gotten out of hand and it's gotten out of our control. And I don't see a way in which we can come back to those Walter Cronkite days, or the days where we can just get the news and collectively watch a person walk on the moon without getting different perspectives on this or that, or opinions and all this kind of stuff, or talking heads that create all this mayhem. So if you want to practice this mental minimalism, then one of the first ways and one of the easiest ways to get into that state is to avoid watching any kind of media that is trying to inject information into you that is injecting a belief or reinforcing a paradigm or anything like that. Because is it really serving you? So and when you're watching that and when you're absorbing any information like that, that's a good question to ask. Is this serving you? Because chances are it might not be. It might just be adding to the drama in your life. And drama, my friends, is an energy killer. Drama is the anti-minimalism to our minds. Drama adds more elements into our minds, add more chaos to our mindset. So avoid the news. And on that same note, this gets me into the second point of how to practice mental minimalism. And that is to detox your socials. And some of your friends, some of your family may not like you for this, but if you're very clear with them as to why you're doing it, and that you are doing it, that you're doing it in such a way that it is not personal, but it is just for your own benefit, then people should understand. I say should in quotation marks because not a lot of people do understand when their friends leave them or unfollow them on social media. But if there are people that are simply just doing too much or promoting too much negativity or attacking or inciting on your social media feed, well, that too is adding to that chaos that's in your mind. And if you can minimize that, if you can commit to making your social media a source for positivity, meaning, you see maybe kittens or puppy dogs and things like that, but also what inspires you? What do you want to see that inspires you? Well, for me, when I detoxed my socials, I truly did end up unfollowing a lot of friends and family just because of what they were posting, and I just couldn't stand to see it on both sides of the spectrum. I didn't want to hear about anybody in any election. I didn't want to read about any kind of gossip from celebrity gossip or anything like that. What I wanted to see people achieving their dreams. I wanted to see people achieving goals. I wanted to see people traveling the world. I wanted to see, I wanted to hear about the celebrations and the wins in people's lives, because that was inspiring to me. That lifted me up. And so when you're looking at your socials, when you're looking at your social media feeds, ask yourself that, is this empowering me? Is this lifting me up? Or is it sending me into the spiral of anger, fear, unhappiness, frustration? Or, is it living in my brain? We've all had that situation where we've read the comments, and that's what they say. Don't read the comments, right? Don't read the comments. But we've had those situations where we've read something that's really gotten to us, and it's been in our minds all day long. Or we might have seen something that somebody posted. It may that may have just been that we may have taken personally, and it sits with us all day. It gets into our mind all day. Those kinds of things become obstacles to experiencing greater flow in our lives. You have to be on the lookout for those things. If you want to practice greater flow in your life, then you have to take out those things that hit you like that. Or you have to learn and be resilient to not let them get to you. But the best way and the easiest way with social media is to just not not expose yourself to them as often as you need to, because it becomes a challenge to try to remove that from your life. So detoxing your socials is also a good one to add, in addition to avoiding the news, that will provide that mental minimalism and improve your flow. And then finally, here's a practical tip on the third thing I want to share with you to practice mental minimalism is a practical tip on how you can reset. And resetting is an important part of continuing to stay in flow and alleviate that anxiety and that chaos that's going around in your mind. And the way to do that is to practice big S, little s. And that's big Sabbath and little Sabbath. And I know I'm kind of getting onto the religious angle here, but hear me out, because a Sabbath is a day of rest. A Sabbath is a time of rest. And there's a reason why that's reinforced. Whether it be a day that's given to us by God as a day of rest, or whether it be just something that we have to practice, the reality is that human beings need rest in order to thrive, in order to experience flow. So this is something you have to put into your calendar. The big S Sabbath is a full day of rest where you take off an entire day from work, where you don't do any work. And this gets really, really hard to do. This gets really, really hard to do, guys, because when you try to take that time off, you want to start doing stuff. You find that, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss something. I have to do this thing. I have to do this project. I have to finish this project. Do you really? But make that, for whether you're spiritual or not, make that day sacred. Because if you can make that day sacred, I guarantee that's one of the best things that you could do to alleviate the chaos in your brain. Is give yourself one day a week to give yourself that rest and that day. As tradition would put it, do that on Sundays. I take a full day where I don't do any work. And it doesn't mean I can't think of it, because I don't think of it, because sometimes those topics come into my head, but I don't live there. I don't give in, and I don't do the work, and I don't turn on the computer on those days. That's an important thing to do, is to take that big S and take that day for yourself. Spend some time with your family, spend some time with your loved ones, spend some time with yourself, spend some time in nature, do whatever you need to do. Spend some time with video games, but just take that time away from work. Take that time away from your obligations. Take that time away from the things that stress you out. And then the little s is the daily Sabbath, the daily little breaks you want to take throughout the course of the day. And these are important too, because these will help you to stay in the flow. A lot of times we get into that flow state where we get into work and we just want to keep working. You know what the best time to take those breaks is? The best time is right when you're at that peak productivity. Why at that time? Because that's right when you're about to start coming down. And when you start that downward trajectory, it is really, really hard to get yourself back to a state of productivity throughout the day. So you want to take it when you've been in that peak state for a little bit, and you want to take it while you're still at that peak state of productivity. You take that break, you come back to it, and then you take a little bit of a dip to get yourself back into it. But then you start to have this new peak, and you start to come back. All it takes is 15 to 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minute breaks when you have that peak productivity. And honestly, get away from your computer, get away from your phone. This isn't a time to check social media. See item 2 for that. This is a time to just get outside, meditate, watch whatever nature is around you, listen to the sounds, but take it as a time for yourself, and do it with discipline, because again, your mind is going to tell you, well, I can't do that now because I need to get in this. No, make it a scheduled point in your day and make it non-negotiable. So those are the 3 things you want to focus on to get that mental minimalism. If you do those 3 things, you will clear your mind of a lot of that clutter, a lot of that chaos that we're starting to put in there, on top of the other things that we have to think about, things like family, things like our work, things like our business, all of those things. Those things are going to be in there. We're going to have to think about those things. You don't have to add any more drama or any more chaos on top of that has nothing to do with you. So if you want to practice mental minimalism, avoid the news, detox your socials, and practice a big S, little s Sabbath every week and every day, and you will start to experience more mental minimalism. Thanks for joining me on this episode, and we'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Flow Over Fear podcast. If you'd like to learn more about getting into flow and learn the foundations of flow, I have a free video series on my website at www.adamcliffordhill.com called The Foundations of Flow. Feel free to go there and download it and start your journey to rising above fear and achieving greater flow in your life. And if you like this episode, and I'm guessing you did if you stuck around for this long, then please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button, and you will receive notifications when I have new interviews, new recaps, and new trainings that pop up on YouTube. Thanks again for joining us.